Hey everyone. Oh my gosh, my lighting is kind of funky right now. It's great to be here with you. As I've been talking about, I wanted to do this final kind of Q&A discussion, whatever comes up around middle school change, which is closing tonight at midnight for half a year before it opens again. So I want to take questions. If you find your way here live and want to put some questions in, go ahead and put them in, and I will answer everything that's there. But in advance of that, I've been sent a ton of questions this whole week and been asked a million questions. So I want to address some of just what I know by now is super common. Hi, Julie. It's just the stuff that I know is really common and on a lot of people's minds. So I'll speak to that a little bit here as well. But again, if you're joining in, feel free to pop your questions in there. Before I start with the questions, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has reached out with a question, with thanks for your webinars, with like just any interest in this, understanding at all. And as much as, yes, I have a school that I adore, that I've seen change so many people's lives, that happens to be closing tonight at midnight, that's, it's so much bigger than that. I do this work because this understanding, not me, not my school, which is just a vehicle for sharing this, but this understanding has, there's no words. It's completely changed my life in so many ways. And I have seen it do that for so many people. And again, this has nothing to do with me. It's just like there's a freedom in us. There's a truth in there. And there's so much good in our design and how we work. Naturally, how you're already working, no matter what you're going through, there is so much good in there that I know too is so easy to miss. We're so much oriented innocently sometimes toward what feels wrong and what feels scary and what's not happening the way we want it to and what's wrong with us and me. And, that's just how humans are. It's okay. But I don't want you to be left taking that seriously. That is just how humans are. We all of us get caught up in that and innocently miss our health, innocently miss the resilience and the peace, and that all this stuff we're looking for is in us. I'm going to fix my blinds for a second because the lighting looks really bad. We miss it, we just do. All of us do. Maybe that's better. And, me too. And everyone. And yet I've seen over and over again that as we kind of just get pointed toward what's working, and this is not I don't mean it when I say it like that. It sounds like I'm saying, oh, ignore your problems and look toward what's good in your life. That is not at all what I'm saying. Turn this back on. I'm just saying that what we're looking toward isn't positive thinking. It isn't, oh, let's just focus on what's good. It's like, let's see this accurately. These problems, these issues, these diseases, these diagnoses that we think we have, that we have been given, they are not as they appear. They just aren't. They are not as they appear. And as we start to see that differently, like our experience is moment to moment, and our mind wants to grab on and say, oh, look at how all those moments went. Therefore, it means this about me. Look at how all those moments went. Look how I felt here. Look how I felt there. Therefore, it means something about me. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And everyone's mind goes there. And you also don't have a problem because your mind is going there doing that. That's everyone's mind goes there. That's just kind of part of the innocent misunderstanding of how we work that so many of us, all of us in some ways, are caught up in. But to start to see that our mind works just like everyone else's. It's universal. It works just like everyone else's. And just because we're caught up in something doesn't mean it's about us. Doesn't mean we need to pay attention to it. Doesn't mean there's a fix that needs to happen. we just want to start to see our experience fresh in the moment and see that it isn't so scary, and it sure isn't stable. It's moving all over the place. And there is a peace beneath that. There is health beneath that. And as we start to feel into that more and more, that becomes your new home. I mean, it's your home already, but we're just so caught up here that we kind of miss it. But that peace within us, that's where you start to get grounded. That's what you feel familiar. You start to feel familiar in that, like, oh, now I'm back. This is me. That this isn't me. This is me. And when that starts to shift, everything starts to shift, because you still are in life. You're still feeling the ups and downs, but you know what's what. You're oriented in the right place, and you know what's what, and you're less afraid, and then life kind of moves through you in a really beautiful way. So I know I say this stuff all over the place and it's kind of the same stuff. I just really want to thank you for putting up with me all over Facebook and in your inbox and all of that in the past week or more, and just let you know why I do it. I mean, I just do it because I've just seen so much come from this understanding, and I'll do it probably for the rest of my life, because it's just a beautiful thing. I feel really, really grateful to get to share this. So let me go to a few questions. Some of the questions are bigger, like about this understanding, and some are a little more practical. Some are about the school or like more specific. So yeah, I'll just start somewhere and see where we go. Let's see. Let me say a little bit about how the school works. So there's quite a few questions about that. Let me just say that, and then I'll maybe skip over to then go to some bigger ones about this understanding. So the Little School of Big Change is a 6-week guided course. Over the course of 6 weeks, you get every Friday, instantly when you join, you get about an hour's worth of content unlocked. And that content is lessons, me talking like this to a camera and starting from square one as if we know nothing. We're all just on this journey together and looking at, wow, what is all this stuff that we think is us? What is it really? Our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors. Is that really who we are? Is there more to us than that? Like, how is it that we get all caught up in that all the time? We start as if we know nothing, me too, and we just kind of walk through this understanding in a very, very deep way. It gets deep. It takes a little bit, but I guide you through it. So when you first join the school, and each week thereafter for the next 6 weeks, you get about an hour's worth of content released or unlocked. And so everyone watches that on your own pace, but within that week. And then throughout the 6 weeks of the school, I lead 2 group calls. So every Tuesday and every Thursday. Hey, Lisa, I'm so excited that you're here. So every Tuesday and Thursday for the next 6 weeks, I'm there leading a group call. And in those group calls, we all have just watched the same hour of content. So we talk about that. We go deeper into that. I answer all your questions. I do coaching with people. And those calls, to me, are really where the heart and soul of the school is. Because you're there caught up in whatever you're caught up in. We all are, right? So you're thinking whatever you're thinking, caught up in whatever you're in. And then there's lots of other people who are caught up in very similar things, because we're all the same. It's really not that unique. Their details might be slightly different, but they're going through their own version of the exact same thing you're going through. And you get to ask your questions, and I'll work with you and help you, make sure that things are cleared up so you can take all this in. But the beauty in it really is in seeing other people be coached and sometimes having their questions answered, because something happens, when it's us, we bring so much thinking to it. Again, we're really in it, like it's me and mine, and I'm the one here, and now I'm asking the question, and what is she going to say, and did I explain it well? Like, all that just tends to be there. And I hope I hear this, and does that make sense to me? Like, there's so much there sometimes when it's us. Now, I don't want to dissuade you from speaking up on the calls and being coached, because it's a wonderful thing, super, super helpful. So do that. But in addition to that, it is incredibly helpful to see other people. So someone else, and probably in some other part of the world, speaks up and they have a question, they're struggling with something that is similar maybe to what you're struggling with, but different enough, and it's them, not you, that you relax. You relax, your mind's like, okay, their turn. And in the course of hearing me kind of speak to their experience, which is, again, universal, it's just like your experience, but it's theirs in this case, in your mind, you hear things and you have insights. I mean, and you see them have insights. And that is just the beauty in this group. It's why I spend most of my time and energy in the Little School of Big Change these days, rather than doing private coaching. And private coaching is a wonderful thing too. But I see so much happen when we see other people wake up, when we're around other people, and it's like it's contagious in this container, you know? So that's what happens on those calls. I know I'm kind of getting away from the format of the school. I'll get back to that. But that's what happens on those calls. And to me, those calls are just the biggest, best part of the school. Now, every call is recorded, so you don't have to be there live. A lot of people can't be there live, or at least for a good portion of some of the calls. Sometimes people go through the school and they can't be on any calls live because of their work schedule or whatever. Everything's recorded. You can listen to it after the fact, and whether you're there live or recorded, you get the same impact. I mean, those calls are amazing. So there is the content, which you get over the course of 6 weeks. You get to keep that forever. There are the twice a week group calls, which are, again, all recorded. You keep the recordings of those forever, and really, really where a lot of this happens. And then there's our forum, and we have an incredibly vibrant, active forum, amazing forum. It's a private forum. It's not here on Facebook. It's within our school website. And people are on there around the clock, again, from all corners of the world, asking questions, like getting some personal support, going deeper, having conversations about the content. So if at any point in this 6 weeks you have a question, you say, Amy, I want you to talk to me about this. Like, this feels personal and I need some help. You will get it. I mean, there's no question that from between the forum and the calls and all the opportunities, you get it. And I don't know. I mean, to me, that's just like, the school is extremely affordable, and you're for sure going to get personal support, plus so much more, plus what you see from everybody else, and then all the content for life. So it's a really awesome setup. So that's my very long question, my answer to the question, how does the school work? When do we meet? All those kinds of things. We meet on Zoom, by the way. Someone asked that. So very easy. Everything in the school has been designed and set up to be extremely simple. It's very clean design. Like, there's not overwhelm. You're not getting tons of stuff. In fact, I just talked with one of the coaches who helps me on the forum this morning, and we were just talking about how nice it is to just have those of you there's already a lot of people in the school starting to go through. Hi, Michaela. Having them just stick with the short, like, course content and our conversation just for these 6 weeks. Now, I don't mean you're not sequestered like you're on a jury or something. Like, I know you're going to take other things in, but you know, we're not on that forum. We're not on the call saying, oh, now listen to this and go listen to this webinar and do this and read this book. No, because I want this to be, because I've seen that this works best when it really is like we're just in it together. Slow down a little bit, take your time and see this deeply. That's how this sinks in, and people really, really come to see something from it. So another question that I have in like 100,000 different forms is the question, again, that this shows up in all kinds of different words and in different costumes, but it's essentially, how do I get my mind to quiet down? It's a good question. Amy, I'll get to your question in 1 second. It's a great question. Let me finish what I just posed, and then I'll jump there. But so this question of how do I get my mind to quiet down, settle down? Again, it comes in all kinds of forms. I have lists of questions that have been sent in and that were asked on the webinars and stuff. And a lot of them have the word how in front. How do I, what am I going to do? Like, what are the steps? How is this going to work? How am I going to have my insights? And I just want to speak for a second to the fact that this isn't, now this might sound different than what you're used to. It's not a how do I. So when someone says, how do I get my mind to quiet down? You don't. That's not your responsibility. Quieting your mind, I have no clue, no idea. Quieting your mind is not your job, and it's not your responsibility. Now, just that alone will quiet a lot of people's minds, because everyone I see, for the most part, not people that have been exposed to this, but everyone mostly out in the world, for whom this is brand new, that's what they're doing. There's a lot of energy and a lot of time, and me too, for my whole life up until about 10 years ago, a lot of time and energy devoted to trying to get myself to have a quiet mind, or trying to get my feelings to calm down, or trying to change something. And I've never seen that work, because the trying and it's my responsibility and what am I going to do, like that all points us in a direction that just isn't helpful. It all points us toward back up into our heads, into applying things to something that looks like a problem. So when you ask the question, how do I get my mind to settle down? One, I already know right away, it looks like a big problem to you that your mind isn't settled down. And I can tell you, for me and the people who have gone through the school, a busy mind doesn't look like a problem. Huge difference already. It doesn't look like a problem. When a busy mind doesn't look like a problem, it looks like part of being a human being, or it looks like something that happens to all of us at times, or it looks like, oh, don't worry, that'll work itself out. That'll settle down on its own. Game changer. I mean, everything is different when this doesn't look like a problem. So already, again, just by asking the question, how do I get this to settle down? It's like, oh, that looks like a big problem. No wonder you're suffering. No wonder. You don't get it to settle down. It settles down, and it's not a problem to begin with. It is what happens in the human mind. Now, you might hear that if you're new to this as, oh, so she's saying I have to, just accept it. I'm going to have to just learn to live with this forever, or it's about acceptance. That's not at all what I'm saying. It is not about accepting suffering at all. It's about seeing it clearly, seeing it in a new way, seeing that, like, when my mind is busy, sometimes I suffer a little bit, but I don't suffer like I used to suffer from a busy mind, because I see it clearly. I know in my bones that it has nothing to do with me, that it is not my responsibility to fix it, and that it fixes itself. And when you deeply see that, and you just see that to be the truth, your mind gets busy, and then you get distracted from it. You get bored with it. It just is not a big deal. The reason that we swim in anxiety and bad feelings in a busy mind for prolonged periods of time is because innocently, we are caught up in that, either trying to make it go away or thinking it means something. Oh, should I be listening to this? What is this? Is this my wisdom? Is this telling me something? When you start to see that whole thing clearly, you're still human, and your mind still gets busy and then settles down, and you still feel stuff, but you become kind of more childlike, where their thoughts and feelings and emotions, you notice this, like, they have a pretty fast clip to them. They don't linger. The kids can be in all kinds of moods, and they just don't linger because they just aren't in there working on it. So that's how this is completely different, and that's where the power in it is. It gives you a clear felt understanding for what it means to be human. And you guys, like, what it means to be human is the best news ever. Like, it is good news. It is. We have the most amazing design, the most amazing resilience and health, and our thoughts and feelings, they figure themselves out and they clear on their own. It is incredible. It is incredibly good news. It's just that we we just don't see it that way. We've been so oriented toward fix it, and you have a problem and you have a flaw, and be empowered and do something about it, that we're just busy. We're innocently keeping it alive when we don't need to. Love this stuff. So, okay, let me go to Amy's question here. Again, I'll kind of go to like this deep and then maybe give us a little breather and go to something more logistical. So she says, how often do you offer this class, and is all class content the same? So it's a great question. I offer this twice a year. The Little School of Big Change opens typically in the fall, like usually in October, and then in the spring, a March, April course. So twice a year, not in between at all. And the way it works is that once you've been through the course once you've been through one of the 6-week courses, which is like what's starting right now and ending tonight, the registration's ending tonight, the course isn't, but once you've been through one of those 6-week courses, you can go through it with the future classes as often as you want. And it's a beautiful thing, because I mean, right now, there's a lot of people who went through in October who are coming through again, going through this class. And it's the kind of thing that, you know, you get so much from it, but then you want to go through again and maybe have an eye on something new, or just want to see things more deeply. We don't ever get to the bottom of how our human life works. I sure as heck haven't. And I've never seen anyone who's like, oh yeah, check that off the list. I got it. I understand everything about how life works. Like it's an ongoing exploration. And that doesn't mean you're stuck in problem. I mean, stuff starts shifting for people really, really quickly, but there's just always more to see. It's really awesome in that way. So I offer it twice a year. I always encourage people every single time, and this time there's been so many, who, you know, say, oh, I think I'm going to wait until next time. I mean, do what's best for you. Do join when you want to join. But I always, when people say that, I always let them know again that that's fine. But if you join now, you have access to the content for life. So if you join now, basically you get this whole course. And even if you can only participate in some of it, you get as much as you get of that. You get to keep all the content. So in the next 6 months, you can be having tons of change. I mean, you can be feeling like a different person, like people say they do when they go through the school. You can start that now. You can, like, let's say even right now you're in the middle of something, another course or something. If you start this in May, let's say, fine, go through it at your own pace in May. I guarantee things are going to start shifting and you're going to see something. So why wait till fall? You know what I mean? So you can do that on your own in May. And then in the fall, when I guide people again through live, you get to be in that one. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like as soon as you're interested, join then, because you get to kind of keep going through it in the future. So so that's how that works. And I had that as a question here anyway. Oh, in the second part of Amy's question, is all class content the same? So there's a core curriculum and an advanced curriculum, and so it's a lot of content. And that content, yes. So if you go through it in October, I don't know. I'm going to be making some changes. I do add things. I add new animations. I update things. So some things might be different, and some of it might be the same. And that I'm just not sure. But again, people have gone through it and then gone through it again with the exact same content, and they hear totally different things, because that's kind of just how this understanding is, you know, like you go through it once and your mind is a certain place and you hear what you need to hear. And then 6 months later, you're in a totally different mind place. You've seen new things and you hear it more deeply. So, so there are little changes to the content, but even when there aren't, it's really a great thing to kind of keep going back through. So thanks for your question. Other questions here, please feel free to ask them. Like this extremely important one from Tammy, who asked about my books. Yes, which way do I have to go? Yes, my books are ordered by color. It's a blessing and a curse. That's just the thing I do. But you know, I sit here all the time and I'm on here all the time. And so I try to make it somewhat appealing for you guys to, and then maybe my hope is that maybe you're not looking straight at me the whole time. That like helps my mind at ease too. Oh, they're probably focused on the books, so they're not even looking at you, Amy. Julie asks, after the 6 weeks, what happens then? Do you get to sign up to something else to stay in the conversation? Yes. Let me take a drink because this is a good question. I get so excited about this stuff. I love this so much. I love this school. I love sharing this understanding. I just feel so grateful that there are people like you guys that listen. Because if it wasn't for people listening and wanting to hear more about this understanding, I'd probably just be telling it to my kids over and over again, or I don't know, my dog or something. But okay, so after the 6-week course, there is a bigger community. It's just our bigger ongoing community. And so after the 6-week course, you have the option. You're not automatically in it. You don't have to be in it. But for people who want to stay connected to this, you can join our larger community. In that community, we have our own forum. So there's a separate kind of forum, and it's advanced. It's really fascinating to see when people first come in, and then even 6 weeks later, but especially months later, where the conversation goes. It's a really cool thing. It gets deep, and we share a lot of stuff in that bigger community. But the way that works is we have a forum too, so there's lots going on there. And then we have 3 calls a month currently. We might add more, and I often do bonus calls, so really it's pretty much 4 calls a month usually. But a couple of those are me. They're longer calls. We go really deep, but couple of those are me kind of, again, just taking questions, talking about whatever you guys want to talk about, coaching people if they're up against something. That's a couple of the calls. And then again, we'll have usually a bonus call about some topic that you want to hear about. Last week we did maybe it was 2 weeks ago, did a call on weight loss. We did a bonus call. What was the other bonus call on recently? I don't know, whatever topic it is that you want to hear about. And then we have a call each month where we have a guest speaker. This month we have Paul Hederman coming in. Maybe you've heard of him on YouTube. We have other colleagues of mine, and a lot of times those are around different topics and stuff again. So we've done things like, we had a woman come in, Gail Noble, who I love, came in, shared her book, and talked about raising her son with autism. We've had people come in and talk about different aspects of our experience, anxiety. We had a whole thing around fear, just a whole topic on fear. We've done it around physical health, which we're due for another one because it's a big topic right now in our community, people talking about dealing with pain, chronic pain, and health issues. So I'm going to bring in a speaker soon to talk more about physical health. So we go into different topics like that as well in the bigger community. So that community, again, it's optional. You don't have to join it, but we love each other so much. There are people from all over the world there. We stay in touch. We meet up in real life. So there's some live events coming up pretty soon here, actually, in the next couple months. So it's just awesome, we send each other little gifts, and we know birthdays, and it's a really beautiful thing. I send gifts to people when they've been in that community for a year. I'll keep the gift a surprise, but you get all kinds of presents, and it's a beautiful thing. And it's $39 a month. So for $39 a month, you can stay connected to this. You can know that you have me as your coach anytime you need me. Pretty good deal. So Brian asked, are you an active part of the program helping students through, or is all of the content pre-recorded? I'm there, Brian. I'm gearing up these next 6 weeks. I mean, my husband and kids know, mommy's going to be busy. I'm on the forum. I have 2 coaches now who are helping me on the forum, Amanda and Terry, who are both amazing. They just went through my apprentice program, my mentoring program. Amanda's been with the school for 2 years, and she's written a book, and she's done her own thing. Terry, too, has been coaching from this understanding, coaching in general for a long time. So they're helping, but I live in our forum. I lead every group call. So the content that you see is all me, and it is pre-recorded. But that's the beauty in the 6-week course, is it comes to life on those live calls and on the forum. And that's all me, and I wouldn't have it any other. That'll never change, because again, I kind of live for this. This is I love doing this stuff so much. I love being in that group and watching people start to wake up to this. So yeah, you couldn't get me out of it. Anne says, thank you for caring so much. I love being part of the school, and it's only been 3 days. Thanks, Anne. So Anne joined on the first day. So some people School opened on Monday and it closes tonight at midnight Eastern time. So some people who came in on, early Monday, they've been around it for 3-4 days now, and they've seen the first block of content. We've already been coaching them and chatting on the forum. So there's already quite a bit of momentum. She says, I woke up happy today, and that doesn't happen to me. I wake up feeling anxious usually. So of course I began thinking, why am I happy? Yeah. But then I saw it as thought. Beautiful, Anne. I mean, it's so simple. It is so simple. And sometimes, as much as people come into the school to anything thinking, wow, I'm up against it. Like all the time, people saying, can this help me? And, oh, I don't think you've seen a case like mine. Yeah, I have. And no disrespect to what you're going through, but it always looks big and severe and unique in our experience. But like Anne, you get around a bunch of other people, you start just seeing the light a little bit, you start seeing how simple it is, you start seeing how our thinking works, and it does not take long. I mean, already people are saying stuff like that, and we haven't even had a call yet. And it's not about me, it's not because my content's amazing, it's how we work. It's being pointed toward how the human mind, the human experience works. It's awesome. I'm happy for you, Anne. That's great. Diane asks a question that also is on my list because it's asked all the time. She says, how different is the course content from your podcast? The content, so the recorded lessons and stuff, it's very different. I mean, it's the same in that it points to the same understanding, right? That point to one set of truths, right? And one kind of way that we work, and it's a really simple way that we work. So there's not a whole lot of complexity there. So it all points in the same place. So it's exactly the same in that regard, but it's very, very different, really, because the Little School of Big Change was designed. I spent, what month are we in? March. It was 2 years ago. Like I really started devoting to it in January, February, 2 years ago. So I cleared my calendar. I didn't take any clients for like 4 months. And I spent that time, it was about as intensive as writing my last book was. I spent that time going through like, okay, based on all my years of working one-on-one with people, where do we want to start? And where do minds go with objections? Because you're not alone. Again, it's pretty universal. I've seen over and over again, and any good coach who's done a lot of work with people knows this, like, as you just see the certain objections come in. You see where people start to get in their own way. You see where people get stuck when you've done this over and over again. So I developed this to walk you through this understanding from not start to finish, because there's never a finish, but from pretend we know nothing. Let's just show up here fresh, like we know absolutely nothing about how we work. And let me guide you through it step by step, knowing that, okay, usually at this point, this is where people are doubting. Let me come in and help you clear that doubt up. Or usually by this point, this is, so based on all that, it is a curriculum. It is a very well thought out curriculum. So in addition to developing that curriculum over several months, I tested it. We had, some of you might have been part of this or remember it if you were around then. I had a whole beta group of like 60 people go through this content and give me step-by-step feedback, and I could watch them and see, no, it's not as scientific as I'm making it sound, but I could watch them and see, oh, that's where people really heard something in that video. They felt it in that video. This one, not so much. So I changed it. Like I went on their feedback, and so it's a tested, kind of like curated curriculum that walks you through this. A podcast is not. It's my random ramblings for 20 minutes. It's totally in isolation. And same with like blog posts. And that's what people ask, how is this different than all the free stuff you do? You do free stuff all the time, your blog posts and your Ask Amy's and your podcast. Well, it's completely different, really, because this is designed to move you through. Those are little snippets here and there that I really hope land with you and get you curious about how we work, but they don't walk you through anything. You just can't do it in that format, in that way. This is a totally different creature. So I hope that helps. It's a great question. And again, it's a really, really common question. Also, I'm not there, for whatever that's worth, which I hope is something. I'm not there when you're listening to a podcast or you're reading a blog and your mind's like, yeah, I've heard this before. When I see you doing that on our Zoom call, or when you're on the forum saying, I don't know, oh, I think I know this already, or I heard this from so-and-so or whatever, or this doesn't sound, or I don't know, that didn't do anything for me. I'm a coach, and I've been a coach for a long time. I can't help myself. I jump in and say, whoa, wait a minute. Like, what's in the way here? So I'm there in the school, step by step for all of you. And again, I was explaining this to someone I talked with this morning. You see that in other people. So if I see someone like in a common thinking trap or whatever, and I clear it up on a call, I just know, because we all work the same way and we're all very, very similar, that probably 25% of the call was in a similar trap. Now that just got cleared up for them too. So that's, again, the beauty in the group of this, is that by other people's questions and issues and all that, you get stuff cleared up that you don't even know you need cleared up half the time. So yeah, so I hope that helps. Brian asks, is this 3 principles based information? So the content in the school, like, I don't talk about the 3 principles, but the 3 principles is a school of an understanding, I suppose, that has been extremely influential for me. So is it that? I don't know, because the content is not, here's principle 1, here's thought, here's mind. It doesn't work like that. I'm speaking to a human being who's caught up in something, and we're just looking together at how we work. I don't ever say the 3 principles, I don't think, in the content. I don't refer people to them. It isn't, but is that the feeling and the essence of that and the truth of that there? Absolutely, because that's part of what helped me, like studying that, or studying from people who have been influenced by that too, like as an understanding, as a form, a thing. It's been incredibly helpful to me, more so than anything else I've ever studied. And I study non-duality, and I study other spirituality and all kinds of things. So it all kind of comes together. But I hope that, let me know if you have a follow-up, if that doesn't answer your question. Yes and no. It's not like here's 3 principles. It's not talked about, but it comes from that. The essence of it is absolutely there. Lisa says, I've joined already and had support from the school forum. It's all genuine and so supportive. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Lisa. I'm so glad you're there. Hi, Helen. Tammy says, I've had a lot of success with coaching and therapy in the past, but I have one thing that no one's ever been able to help me with. It's a tough nut to crack. I've given up. Tammy, give me a chance. I can crack it. And I'm not saying that about me, but I can't tell you how often. I mean, me too. I had my tough nuts to crack, and I said, "Oh, no one's been able to help me with this, and no one will." But that wasn't true. Like, and it's so easy to give up. So easy to give up and say, "No, I've put in my time. I've put in my resources. It's not going to work for me." But I'm not saying this about you or me or anyone in particular, but because of how we humans work, because of the design of all human beings on Earth, I can absolutely promise you, and maybe you just have to take my word for it, I don't know, but I know for an absolute fact that there's nothing that we have to be stuck in, because everything that we feel stuck in, everything that feels like an absolute solid, I can never get around this, it's made of thought. It is our mind. Our mind is giving us that experience. When your mind gets quiet, that experience goes away. Now, I know you, Tammy, or others might be listening and say, nope, mine doesn't. I've had this feeling forever. I've had this issue forever. But I know you have it. And if you really look, you have it. The hardest, craziest things that people have been up against, you start to see, oh, my mind goes there and creates it on its own. You're not doing it. It's not your fault. It's just how we work. Mind creates it. It becomes a thing in our experience. But everyone I've ever talked to ever in my entire life has moments when their mind is at ease or somewhere else, or something's going on. And this thing that feels so solid and stable and like it's always been there and it's their constant companion is nowhere to be seen. Now, maybe that's quick relief. In the worst case, it's quick. And then your mind goes back and grabs your problem again. That happens sometimes. But the fact that you can be falling asleep at night and you don't have your issue for even a minute, or you can be busy in your day, or you can just be caught up by something in nature, and for a minute, for a second, you feel peace and you don't have your problems and you have nothing to fix. That shows us something. That shows us something about you and what's true in you and what's possible for you and what is always there. And what's true and possible and there in you is the same for all people. It is universal. It's just how we're designed. So it isn't possible, Tammy, that whatever this thing is for you is hopeless. It just isn't possible, because we can always, our mind is always quieting down. We can always have insight. We can always see around things. Just because you haven't yet doesn't mean that you can't. And in my 8 years of being so blessed to be able to share this, I've seen pointing people toward these truths be the thing that helps when nothing else does. So often. I can't promise you anything in particular. I don't know what's going to happen. But I can tell you that, I mean, without question, anyone that I love that's going through anything, this is the conversation I would point them to, because being trained as a psychologist, seeing multiple types of therapy, being trained as a coach many times over in all kinds of different traditions and tools and practices, not even in the same universe as this. Honestly, it's just what I've seen. I would send anyone I love here, and I would double down on this understanding any day of the week. So give it a chance. And that's for anyone. Again, I get it. I get what it feels like to be caught up and feel like you've tried everything and be so hopeless. But there's so much hope. You haven't tried this. And even if you have, because that's another question. I've been in this conversation. I've heard some of this and I still have my issue. Even if you have, I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know that moment when the clouds are going to part and you're going to see something. But I know I've seen this for years, that when people look in this direction and they stay in this conversation, things begin to shift. I can't tell you how long. I can't tell you what day, or what month or what week that's going to happen in. But again, I would bet everything that if you hang around this, things shift, because I've just seen that in almost everyone who's really shown up here with an open mind, willing to see something, that they come away and they do see things. Amy asked, since the class already started, will we be behind? Should we sign up today? So no. Okay, so the way it works is you're not behind at all, because a lot of people are signing up today. So the registration period was started Monday and it ends today at midnight Eastern time. And you get some content and you get access to the forum as soon as you join, but you haven't missed a thing. So people will be joining until tonight at midnight Eastern, not after that. So get in by midnight. And you get some content as soon as you get in. You get that forum, but our calls start next week. So if you join tonight at 11:59, perfect. You're right on time. You get the same content everyone has seen. You have your chance to watch that between now and hopefully Tuesday, if you can, when we have our first call. And then when the calls start next week, then we're all in it together. So the reason I have this 4-day registration period, I want to give you something when you get in to get it going right away for those of you who are joining right away. But then we don't actually start the group stuff until all of this little registration period ends. So, and I know I've spoken to this before, but I just do that because it helps me really. I'm so in this program and I'm spend so much time over the next 6 weeks with you, and I'm so much a part of it that it's really hard for me to be letting people in and answering questions. And having, taking all the like logistical stuff and supporting. And so that's why. So I just say 4 days. These are your 4 days to get in. There'll be 4 days in the fall to get in. Done. Doors closed. Now I'm in there doing what I want to be doing, which is supporting you guys. So join us, Amy. You have some excellent questions, and you are not behind in the least. Right on time. Great, Brian. I love that you've been influenced by this, understanding the principles, and yes, I have too. And everything does come from that place. To me, there's just a bit of a distinction. I think sometimes people can get in their heads about, like, what are the principles? And I just don't think that's important. So when I say I don't talk about that, I just mean that, but the essence of it, that my inspiration is largely that. That's totally what this is. All right, I think that's a lot of the questions, but if you're here and have more questions, put them there. I'm going to go to a couple questions again that are asked every time that were sent in. I have this sore throat thing that a lot of people seem to have. My darn kids bring it home from elementary school, and so sorry, I'm drinking a ton of water. Okay, answered those. I actually answered a lot of them. So one thing I want to say a little bit more about, I think, is for people who have been around this understanding, like maybe you have read all my books, listened to my podcast, maybe you've taken other courses, maybe you've done other things. And a lot of times people do have that, like, well, how is this different? Like if I know about this understanding a little bit already, like maybe I'm just cooked. Maybe this is all I'm going to see, and I get it, but it's not. So I can tell you again that I've been looking in this direction of how we work and what our experience is made of for 8 years. The insight, literally, I had some insights last week that were huge for me, that were as big as any I've ever had. So this doesn't have like an expiration date on it. You keep seeing more. And I know there's a lot of people that share this, and I would just say, like, we all share it in our own way. I have I think, pretty unique, and it's not a strategic thing or an intentional thing, but because we're all different people, we all have different ways of just sharing what we've seen. And I think my way is kind of unique. It's very practical. It's probably been really influenced by my background in psychology and by my own fear of leaving my house, my own extreme anxiety, and my own 8-year eating disorder. That the way this shows up for me and the way that I share it is just really down to earth, really simple, and really practical. Now, I'm sometimes jealous of my mentors who seem to share it in a different way. So that's not better or worse than anything else. I'm just saying we all have our own style. So if you have been around this, you've heard other things, it's been so helpful for me in my own deepening in this to have different mentors. I have my favorites, my people I love, but I try to get a variety, just hear it in a variety of ways. And I mean that if you know what the 3 principles are, I mean that within that community and outside of that community. As you know, once you started to see a bit about how we work, everything starts to make sense and show up in a new light. I mean, like the Bible, like movies, like other spiritual teachers, like other psychological teachers and psychology theories, like, oh, now I see that in a new way. And that's the beauty in this. It's that deep that it starts to just shift how you see things. And then you just go out and you take in whatever makes sense to take in. So if you've been through similar courses or even other stuff of mine or whatever, again, I know I sort of addressed that, but this is really, it's really different, and it's really worth hearing from other voices and other ways of sharing this, because everyone has their own kind of just natural style, natural way of doing things. Let me see. Hey, Mal. Mal is one of the awesome coaches, by the way. We had a bonus. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it because you missed it if you're not in, but Mal's one of our awesome coaches that's helping out, doing some calls with some people who got in early. Okay, I want to read this one question. It's a little bit longer, but I want to read it because I feel like it's really representative of what a lot of people are up against. And again, I'll mention the school is full of people I tend to, again, probably just because of my history, I tend to really love to talk with people who are caught up in some kind of habit or some kind of anxiety. And to me, they're the same thing. So the only difference between somebody who's gambling or has this addiction or has an eating thing or has whatever they might have, and someone who's sitting in anxiety is the person who has the habit or addiction is now doing something to try to help their own anxiety. And now that's created another issue. But really what we look at is deeper than all of that. So I treat those in exactly the same way. They are the same thing. They have the exact same basis. In fact, that's part of what makes this so powerful is we're not looking at, oh, do this, when you have an urge to I don't know, go gamble, do this instead. Like, no, it's so shallow. It just stops the behavior. It slaps a Band-Aid on something, but it doesn't show you anything. We want to see what's beneath that. And the same thing is beneath it, whether you're out acting out or you're doing things or you're doing, eating or drinking or taking things that are unhealthy, as is going on if you're just sitting in anxiety, as is going on if you have obsessions or compulsions, or if you are having panic attacks, or if you have health anxiety, or if you have something else. It all comes down to the same thing. So, so this person says, I've been suffering from anxiety for over 40 years. It started with a panic attack where I suddenly felt the world seemed unreal. Me too. That feeling stayed with me for years and is pretty much past, but I still live with the fear of it coming back. Okay, let me finish and then I'll dive in. It's nearly always on my mind. I've tried everything to lose the fear and have been on anti-anxiety medication for years. I have physical symptoms as well, but they don't scare me as much. I've tried everything you can think of and I'm pretty much at the end of my rope. How can this help me? I just love this because it's such an honest question. It feels like such a big question. And it kills me that this has been on your mind for the better part of 40 years and it looks like something real and solid and scary enough to keep you gripped. Because how this can help is by showing you how your experience works. And I don't want to even say yours, I say ours, because it is all the same. You, anonymous questioner, are absolutely no different than any other human being on the face of this earth. You work in the same way. You have the same health. Your experience comes to life in the same way. Your mind works in the exact same way. The only thing going on is that when this thought of, oh no, what if that feeling comes back? When that thinking is there, and I get it, it's kind of maybe feels like it's kind of lingering in the background. It feels real to you. It feels meaningful. It feels personal. It feels like something you need to maybe keep an eye on or do something about. It feels like something that for a lot of years, it sounds like you had to medicate. That is nothing but an innocent misunderstanding of how the human experience works. That's all that is. And when we start to get these misunderstandings cleared up, everything starts to change. You could have a thought. If you're a parent, any of you who are parents know that it's a weird thing. I don't know. Maybe this is more of a mom thing. I don't think so. But in some way, once you bring a child into this earth, they are always on your mind. Now, they're not always on, like you can have a life, you can hold down a job, you can think about other things, but I don't know. It's like they're just there. They're just such a part of you. And in some way, and again, my kids are little and maybe it's not the same for everybody, but it's like somewhere you kind of have tabs on them. You kind of are like, okay, how's it going? And how they do it? And like, they're just there in some way. Now that is sort of a beautiful experience sometimes. That is also the exact same thing that you're talking about. When you say this thought of, oh no, what if that feeling of unreality comes back and it feels like it's always been there in the background for 40 years, it's seeing something about that. See, now when I say, oh, it's because I'm a mom and I love my kids, like that doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I kind of like that they're always on my mind. The difference is the story, the understanding or the misunderstanding, and the story and the meaning that we give to it in different times. In this case, it's anxiety. It's like, oh, and this is lingering and it's always there and this thought haunts me. But that thought, that concern of, oh, I wonder if I'm going to have an episode like that again, that has been with you for 40 years is absolutely no different than any other thought that ever pops in your head. It is made of the same stuff and it works the exact same way as what time is it? What color is this? Time to let the dog out? What am I going to wear today? All of that is made of the same stuff and it works in the same way. The only difference is we get spooked by some of our thoughts. We get spooked by some of our feelings. We misunderstand them. We don't really see, and when I say we, I mean all of us. We've been pointed toward thinking of ourselves as having problems and flaws and things we need to fix, and it just isn't true. It's just an innocent misunderstanding. So when we start to see our thoughts and our feelings in a new way, we just experience them in a new way. Like it changes so much. You can feel, I hope, the difference between seeing what all experience is made of. And again, that's when I say that habits and anxiety and all of these things are the exact same to me. And where we speak and how we talk to that is exactly the same. Because it isn't about the form it ends up taking. It isn't about slapping a patch on it, slapping a Band-Aid on it, saying, oh, medicate it for 40 years. Do this strategy. Take a deep breath when that thought comes up. Those things might make sense in a moment. You might do them if they make sense, and that's great. But this is a totally different thing. It's so much deeper than that. It's seeing that what comes up is not a problem. It is not a flaw. It is not wrong. It's not requiring anything of you. It's not about you. It's universal. It's how we work as human beings. And as we start to see how we work as human beings, we work better as human beings. I see it all the time. It's amazing to watch things kind of start to fall away as we just see them for what they are. So that's really what the school is about. It's really what we're doing there. Yeah, so Lisa says, the sensations are so scary, but it's true. When your mind settles, they vanish. Exactly. That right there is huge to see because it at least shows you what they're made of. They're coming from a mind saying, oh, that's scary, that's scary, that's scary. They're just coming from this. Oh no, oh no, oh no. When you start to see this and you're like, that really? Like that doesn't scare you anymore? Done. And then you say, but then I start dreading their return. Yeah, but that's just this. You're in the school, Lisa, so I'm not worried about you. You're gonna see a lot more of this. But the dreading their return, exactly. Not just you. That's how we all work. We come down and then this comes back. Don't forget about me. I run your life. Don't forget about me. And it just starts, what if it comes back? What if it comes back? But what this understanding does and what we do in the school is we make you laugh at this. We make this no longer look like a monster. And it shouldn't. It's not. There's nothing to it. I mean, it really is safe and normal and human. And when you aren't afraid of your experience, who cares what you get? Like, you don't care anymore. And I don't mean that in like a dismissive way. I mean, there's nothing to fear. You don't live in fear, and you don't have to tiptoe through life and avoid certain people and avoid failure and avoid triggers. Like, it's ridiculous. We shouldn't have to live that way. And you don't when you're not afraid of what you feel, because you know what you feel is safe and moves through you, and it's no big deal. Oh, thank you, Holly. Holly's been through the school. She says it's awesome. It's worth it to invest in this. Love it. And yeah, it's awesome, Holly. Thank you. Yes, the teeth, Tammy. They're my favorite prop, my secret weapon. So I think that's a lot. Let me think. There was just a question about like any logistical stuff, that you guys have, any question, anything, any questions you have. You probably saw, if you're on my email list and you're not already in the school, you probably saw that I gave out my phone number today. this phone, it's silenced, but it's actually been ringing as we've been sitting here. I know I'm crazy, but I gave out my actual phone number to several thousand people, saying, hey, if you have questions, if you are curious about this but you don't know, call me. And I'm going to be by this all day today. After I finish returning these calls, the line will be open. Leave me a message, and I'm happy to just answer any questions you have, tell you more about this understanding, talk to you about ways to make this school more doable and easy for you, because I'm happy to do that. So any of that, just send me an email, give me a call if you have my number, and we'll take care of it. Because this is kind of what I live for. I love sharing this stuff, and there's so much hope, so much hope for anyone, no matter what. There are no exceptions to that, because what we're looking at is what's true of every single human being on earth. All of us, not just some, not just this issue or that issue, everything across the board, because it's all the same. It really, really is. So really, really, please just know, oh my gosh, if you are curious, if you've tried a million things, me too, I get it. But if this is a new direction for you, it is so worth looking into. And I've done everything I can to make it doable, to keep the cost low and to make it feasible and easy for most people. So please take advantage of that. And if there's anything I can do, let me know. But most of all, even, no matter what, I hope this has piqued your interest and curiosity and maybe been peaceful to listen to, because I talk really fast and it's not me that's peaceful to listen to, but I think honestly what happens, because I feel it too when I listen to people share this, is it just feels right. Like there's something we don't have to be afraid of our experience. Oh, it's just thought. It's your mind doing that. There's something in that just resonates as true. It just feels right. It feels peaceful. So if you felt that at all, that's where you want to follow that feeling and go with that, because there's something to that. It's a really, really beautiful thing. And again, thank you for hanging out, putting up with my face all over Facebook and in your inbox. I know I've sent a lot of emails and I have a lot of thinking about that. But I just do it because I care so much about this understanding, and I've seen what it can do. And I feel so grateful that people want to hear this and that people are hungry for it and that they listen and that it helps people, because it gives me people to talk to. And I just love it. So thank you so much. Let me know if you hear this after the fact. Once we go off here, post your questions. I'll be coming back to this and answering any questions that are here. And thank you guys all for being here. And I can't wait to see you guys in the school. Again, get in before midnight tonight, Thursday the 14th, because that's when it closes. And see you soon. Thank you.